So try to imagine this, 1 billion page views in just 5 days. That's what Walmart.com saw during the launch of the holiday shopping season. Amazon reportedly processing more than 26.5 million orders on Cyber Monday alone. That's 306 orders per second. And no big headlines about their websites crashing or a breach in privacy. So John Tamny says this is proof we should let the private market fix health care in America. Make the case, John.
Well, you know, this is pretty simple. As you point out, Amazon can do 306 transactions per second, whereas visitors to healthcare.gov literally get up in the middle of the night hoping that traffic will be low so that they can transact it all. I mean, we talk about this a lot, that capitalism provides. It does so in abundance. And if you want to fix healthcare, add the profit motive to the equation and remove government.
So, Rick, the fact is that the private sector works fine with these numbers. The public sector crashes.
The private sector does work fine, but I have to remind all of you, because it's kind of being selectively forgotten, when Amazon began, and I remember, I'm old, when Amazon started, it wasn't smooth at all, and Jeff Bezos will be the first to tell you how much time it took to work it out. Look, I'm not happy with the launch of healthcare.gov. Nobody's taken more you-know-what about this than somebody like me.
Grief. Let's say grief.
But at the same time, keep this in mind. The government, and I blame the Obama administration for this, they have shut out some very successful private online companies like eHealth, who have been working very effectively for 10 years. Where are they in the mix?
Well, but Emac, it's true that every company that starts out runs into problems. But listen to this anecdote. When Jeff Bezos was starting out, this is in a book that was written about him, he had a guy that was in charge of phone calls calling in who said every call would be answered within a minute. In a meeting, Bezos tested that, and he waited 4 minutes. That guy was gone within a year. You see people fired. People have to pay the price if they screw up. Not so in government.
Yeah, you would have 6 months of hearings of whether or not you could fire that guy first. And, you know, here's the thing. Right. I mean, when you shut down, what we got to stop is the Ministry of Whitewash in Washington, D.C. about health reform, and the fog machine that's working overtime to spin that this is a great thing. Here's the big problem. I mean, yeah, Amazon processes 3 million a day. That's what we need, what the administration needs to float health insurers 3 million into the system by next March, meaning young adults. The problem is they have such a complicated back end to that website. And by the way, it's so lame that people buy insurance from a government website. It's more complicated than a moon. It's more complicated than a moon launch. They got to cross-check it with the IRS. They got to cross-check it with Department of Homeland Security. You know what? Stop the whole thing and let them get it right from insurance companies.
And Steve, it's just a matter of efficiency. The private sector is efficient. The public sector is not.
Well, this gets to all the problems people have with startups. In the private sector, if you don't succeed, you go out of business, and you don't get capital anymore. You don't have taxpayers you can put your fingers in their pockets and get more money on. So again, why not have private enterprise in health care? Why not have a real safety nets and let people who know what they're doing, turning scarcity into abundance instead of socialism?
Mike Ozania, that's a great point, and we have a test model of that because there is a little bit of free market in health care, and where there is, it works well, right?
Yeah, things like plastic surgery, David, that are typically not covered by insurance. They've improved tremendously in quality over the last 10 or 15 years, and their prices has plummeted. You know, but I like what Steve is saying about, you know, accountability. You know, I go back and I look at Ted Turner, right? He got CNN up and running in 1 year, and he had billions of dollars of capital riding on that. His whole reputation, that was the first global news network. They've had 5 years for ObamaCare.gov, and they still can't get it right.
And Fox News, by the way, is even more efficient than what Ted Turner created. Sabrina, I had to throw that in. Forgive me. Sabrina, it is simple, though. I mean, basically, in the private sector, you have a bottom line. In the public sector, it's just a bottomless pit, right?
That's right. And, you know, it's funny. It's not simply that the private sector does it better than the government. It's that they're constantly looking for ways to improve, to be more innovative, more effective. I think it's interesting when you look at the Cyber Monday sales from this year, they were increased by 17.5% over last year. And they were making it even easier for people to purchase online through their tablets, through their phones. This is something that would just be, you know, completely elude the government, the idea that you would make something more efficient. And it's because we don't have that profit motive, as John
By the way,
referenced.
Rick, let me just put out some hope here. The president has a lot of contacts in Silicon Valley. Is there any chance he'd get some of those efficient guys working in his healthcare mess?
Well, I think he already has. From what I'm told, there's a number of Silicon Valley people involved in what's been fixed so far. That effort, trust me, is continuing. And I think Liz pointed out correctly, we still have issues on the back end, but they're addressing them.
All right.
It's going to take a little time.
Quickly, John, go ahead.
I think he got the people from Webvan, but the bigger picture here is once they fix the website, their problems only just begin,
right.
Given the simple truth that the Affordable Care Act is a contradiction in terms. It brings new meaning to oxymoron. It will not be affordable if people can ever transact.
Got to be the last word. While delaying mandates in Obamacare may be dismantling the Constitution of these United States of America. It's not a Republican saying that. This comes from someone who actually voted for President Obama. We'll tell you who in just a second. Well, the White House delaying another part of the health care law, this time pushing back the deadline for small business exchanges. And now the president's catching heat for tweaking the law without the approval of Congress, even from some folks who voted for him.
The problem with what the president is doing is that he's not simply posing a danger to the constitutional system. He's becoming the very danger the Constitution was designed to avoid. That is the concentration of power in any single branch.
So, Rich, is John Turley on the mark here?
Yes, he is. Obama's making unilateral changes to a piece of legislation. And the problem is, where's the check and balance on that? Where are the limits? What's to prevent him from changing the law entirely? So I realize it's a little bit of a gray area, but Obama's gone way overboard on this.
Rick, you're a lawyer. You know the Constitution. Doesn't this bother you in some way?
Well, here's the issue. I appreciate the professor bringing the point up. However, this is something that's been going on throughout our modern history, this grab for power between Congress and the executive. In this case, though, what troubles me is if you read the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, this does permit these things to be done by the executive branch. There is discretion. So I'm not sure we're picking the best example to make the fight.
Well, Steve, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I know Jonathan Turley is, and he says it's against the Constitution. There have been more than a dozen changes and tweaks, all done by the president without a Congress. Is that right or wrong?
It's wrong, and there's nothing to stop them. And we have to remind ourselves, we're the United States of America, not Venezuela, where they make the law up as they go along and from a balcony. And if he wants to change it, then go to the Congress and get the legitimacy for it. But you just don't say, I'm not going to enforce this part of the law. It becomes inconvenient.
Yeah.
And by the way, Sabrina, Turley is not a witch hunter of the president. He voted for the president.
Right. I think he's thinking, you know, I remember a time when America could brag that we were a nation of laws, not just of willful men and women who made up the rules. But I think it's very different when you elect a superstar. He suddenly doesn't think that he's actually there to be the president.
EMAC, good or bad for the Constitution, what he's doing?
Bad. Turley's saying President Obama was doing this in overdrive. You know, I'll tell you something, it's corrosive because if the government won't uphold the laws it enacts, then the thinking is, why should taxpayers abide by them? That's so corrosive. I'll tell you something, every president from Ford through Clinton opposed 250 laws, constitutional objections to them, but they still upheld them. This president is doing way worse in not enforcing the laws.
John Tamny, this president likes to quote the founding fathers and say what he does is in line with what they say. Listen to this quote, though, from James Madison. It could have been written about Obamacare. He says, "It will be of little avail to the people that the laws be so voluminous that they cannot be read, or so incoherent that they cannot be understood," I think of Nancy Pelosi, "or undergo such incessant changes that no man who knows what the law is today can guess what it will be tomorrow." Doesn't that apply to what's happening now?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the most animating features of the Constitution is separation of powers. Presidents can't send our troops into war. They can't appoint judges. They can't change laws without consent. In Rick's defense, presidents, probably going back to Woodrow Wilson, have been abusing executive power.
True.
This is a bipartisan thing, and it's time to rein in both sides. This isn't just an Obama thing.
But, Rick, the fact that it's happened before does not excuse it now, does it?
And I really appreciate John saying that. I might go even back further before Wilson. This has been an enduring part of our nation, a grab for power by the different branches of government.
Got to be the last word from Rick. Coming up, stocks so irresistible that our informers are